All right, good morning. I guess I'm live. For those of you who are in the class with me right now, you're going to see a little bit of a delay, so make sure that if you're watching the video, you have headphones on or the audio is muted. So you can watch the video, you can participate in the chat if you'd like, but mostly it's just going to be me explaining the design process. Now, the good thing about this is that we have actually done the design process before. I've already explained this to you guys, so this is just going to be a review. Okay, and really it's just gonna be me explaining it, talking about it. Okay, so if you have your notes from previous time when we did the design process, you want to go ahead and pull up those notes so that you can either add to them or you can take notes for the very first time. When the video is done, when I'm done with the live stream, it will be uploaded to my channel and it will be public, so you can watch it over and over again if you need to. And for those of you who maybe struggle with English, the cool thing is once the video is done, you can put on the captions and you can auto-translate those to Spanish to help you, okay? Because I'm going to talk a little bit fast, okay? Make sure you mute that audio so that it doesn't feed back because there's going to be a delay, okay? All right, so it looks like everything in the chat. You guys tell me if it's looking good, if it's sounding good, if it's okay, or if am I too loud? Am I blowing out the microphone or anything? So yes, it's good. I'm seeing in the chat. Okay, perfect. Okay, so we got 6 steps to the engineering design process. Okay, and I'm going to do these by memory, so help me out here. But we got 6 steps to the engineering design process. The first step is to understand the problem. And just like I said in the class, I explained to you, you can use this engineering design process to solve any problem, okay? The engineering design process can be used to work on any problem, maybe not solve it. So the 6 steps are define the problem, then generate some concepts, then develop a solution, prototype, evaluate the solution, and then present the solution. And real quick, because I only have a couple minutes to do this, I'm going to run through those really quick. Really, you need to understand the problem. If you think you have a problem, you really need to know what that problem is. And it might actually turn out that the thing that you thought the problem was might not actually be the problem. Like you may have trouble getting to school on time. So the problem you might think it's sleeping in, right? But that might not be the problem. The problem might actually be that you're going to bed too late. And that's just an example. Okay, so really you got to ask a lot of questions. What's the issue really? You got to ask a lot of questions or really try to understand it. And there's 2 things you got to do when you have a problem. You need to validate the problem and then justify the problem. And by validate, we mean that you need to actually prove that it is actually a problem. And then by justify, you need to be able to show that it's actually necessary to solve that problem. There's some problems in life we really don't need to solve. It's a problem, but it's not something we really need to spend a lot of time on working on, okay? And we're going to find and talk about examples of all of these things in the upcoming classes that we're going to have. So that's the first part of the engineering design process, is to really define the problem. Then we're going to generate some concepts. And the main thing I want you to remember about generating concepts is brainstorming. Brainstorming is messy. It's not a structured thing. It's where everybody kind of shoots out any idea that they might have. And those ideas that they have, they cannot be judged. You can't be telling people that's a stupid idea, because you want people to feel comfortable. You want people to feel safe in sharing what they might think it's a silly idea, but we want them to say it anyway. Sometimes those silly ideas aren't actually silly at all. Sometimes they're amazing ideas. The person just thinks they are. Maybe they are silly ideas, but they would actually lead you to think of something else. Or they would lead that person to have an open, creative process when they're coming up with those ideas. In the generating concepts portion, you're then going to decide which idea you're going to go with. And you're going to use an objective measure. You're going to use an objective system for determining which idea you're going to use. And we call that the decision matrix. And the decision matrix is just a table where you have columns and rows, and each row has each different idea, and each column has the criteria that you're trying to meet. Like, does it really solve the problem? How expensive is it? How much time is it going to take to develop? Does the technology even exist to make this thing? And then you're going to score each of those areas of each idea so that you can make an objective decision. You're not just deciding on the idea that came from the popular person. Okay, you're choosing the best idea regardless of where it came from. Then you're going to really develop that idea. That's the third step in the design process. You're going to figure out what color it's going to be, how big it's going to be, what shape it's going to be, who all's involved, how is it going to be manufactured, all the little bits and details. That's what you're figuring out. You're going to come up with some detailed sketches, some really good detailed information. And that's going to transfer you into the fourth step of the engineering design process, which is to prototype. There's all different kinds of prototypes in this world. When you design a product and you prototype, it's generally to collect data or information on a particular part of the product. For instance, my Apple Watch. When Apple developed this watch, I can almost guarantee you that they had a non-working model. It looked exactly like this, probably had a band. And so people could wear that to test it out, to see if they can get their hand in and out of their pocket, all of those things. So then collecting that data to see if their solution is a good one. And the great thing about a prototype is that it's supposed to be used basically for non-expensive materials. It doesn't go to a full production. It's something that, you know, we could 3D print or test out without actually having to get the whole thing manufactured in a big process. The next step is we're going to evaluate that data. We're going to really look at it, and we're going to really look back at across our whole engineering design process. We're going to think, did we really understand the problem? Did we generate the best concept? Did we develop it out really well? And did our prototype actually give us the information that we need? And that's the fifth step of the design process, which is to really evaluate our solution. If we feel like we have a good solution, then we'll proceed on to presentation. And during the presentation, really, it's where you provide all of the evidence and information that you've gathered so far. You would talk about your problem. And so that's the bell. And I think I did get all the way through the engineering design process, but remember, it is iterative. You can go through it over and over and over again. Just hang on. You can go back to the step 1 and then 2, 3, 4, but you can't skip a step forward. Okay, so you can skip a step backwards all the way back to the beginning if you wanted. But then if you went to step 1, you'd have to go to step 2, 3, 4. If you were at step 4, you could go back to step 2, but then you'd have to go to step 3 and then 4 again. Okay, so that's the engineering design process. Thank you guys so much. I hope you enjoyed this video.